Buckle up. You're going undercover with private investigator Bobby Young. Crossing the crime scene tape into the criminal underworld. This is Evidence Uncovered.
Let's say motel.
Yeah, we'll say motel. It's pretty.
It wasn't a bad one though. I mean, it was a decent area. Well, it was in Williamson County.
Right. So we've got a location on him now, and we get the girlfriend that he's sleeping with, and it turns out that she actually has charges for prostitution, because once we realize who she is, through identification means that we did, when we see she's got these prostitution charges and drug charges, we're like, alleged, yes.
Alleged. Not convicted yet.
Yes. So as it's going and going, we're kind of collecting more and more intel. And you and I, we stayed on him for a couple more hours, and he pretty much went to sleep, which is what he was doing during the daytime. And so you had asked me that night if I would come back and put a camera out in the woods, behind his hotel room. And I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds good. So that night it came back around 10 o'clock, and I had just finished playing softball. So I had on like this neon pink shirt, and stuck out like a sore thumb, but I was like, it's the middle of the night, who cares? I'm just planting a camera. So I go down to Williamson County, and I get into the woods in front of his hotel room. And as I'm placing the camera, this hotel room door busts open. And I'm not worried about me because they can't see me, but I'm just like, what in the world is going on? It's just such a loud bang. And this guy comes out and his girlfriend comes out, and they're arguing over everything. Drugs, beer, whatever. They're just arguing. They're pissed off at each other. And so this guy comes down. He has a gun in his right hand and a beer in his left hand. He takes the gun and he sticks it in the back of the seat of his rental car. And I'm like, we got his car. So we get pictures of the car, we get the license plate, and we start running that stuff. We realize that it's definitely his rental car. And now we have a vehicle that the target is driving. And we have a vehicle that his girlfriend is driving. So things are getting pretty hot. People are screaming. Now I've got guns, an argument, a prostitute, 2 rental cars, and a beer in a drunk guy's hand. And I'm like, and he turns to her and he tells her that he's going to get her damn drugs. And now we have drugs. So I said at that moment, I called an audible. Here we go.
Let's go.
Let's get the horses rolling. So I leave the camera there, right? Because why not? Get a little extra intel, and I hop in my car and I follow him. And I follow him over to Brentwood, and he goes to a definite drug house, and he purchases narcotics. Now, did I get to test those? No, but in my experience, when somebody hands you a bag, with white powder in it that's only this big, I mean, we've got ourselves an 8-ball here.
Yeah, this guy obviously wasn't really hiding anything. It's almost like he was waving around.
Yeah. Well, 11:15 at night in the dark, in a nice neighborhood, he doesn't care. He got in his car and he drove back towards his hotel and motel. And on the way back, one of the Sonics over on that part of town is all shut down. The lights are out, and he pulls in there, and I'm like, So I go take a closer look. So I park my car off to the side, and I'm just basically standing in the darkness, and I'm watching this guy do cocaine bumps off of his fist. He's just pouring a little bit out. He takes a little bit, takes a little, does it again. And he did it 2 or 3 times, and I was like, I had enough film because I recorded everything he did. And I jump back in my car, and he drives back to the hotel. I was like, all right, that's a solid night of work. And he goes inside, and him and his girlfriend, I guess, do their 8-ball. So I grab all the information and put it all in my case report, and I head home for the night until the next night.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously you talked about the camera that we are utilizing and as private investigators, there's some things that we can use to our advantage. So I mean, you've got high resolution and long lens and cameras. Obviously people typically utilize their cell phones as well. Using an iPhone at night to conduct video, I mean, it's actually pretty decent quality. And then you talked about a camera that you were deploying that night, and we used remote cameras from time to time when it helps us out, and when we know the area is deemed either some sort of easement or public area. And it's the same thing as us being there 24/7. It's obviously we're not, so the camera definitely helps out. So, just talking about the tools that help us do our job, and then obviously good old fashioned physical surveillance where we're getting in our cars and following them around. But being in law enforcement 11 years and working 9 of the 11 years that I was with Metro Nashville Police, I did all narcotics work. And we followed a lot of people. I mean, we followed people with kilos of coke. We followed people with hundreds of thousands of dollars in their car. And typically, they're not driving real crazy. This guy and the surveillance that I helped you with, I mean, he was just off the chain. Like, this guy was just on another level. I mean, I believe, going on oncoming traffic, doing U-turns. And, one thing that I talk about in the surveillance training is surveillance investigators thinking that they're burned all the time. And, it may have came up, maybe we had a third investigator with us. I think we did, because this guy was difficult to follow. And then other investigators say, "Oh, I think we're burned. This guy keeps doing U-turns." And me and you are both like, nope. He's tying on drugs. He's either on coke or meth or something.
Yeah.
And, although that creates paranoia, we still stayed with it and stuck on him. And, it's just all the things that this guy did. And then imagine him with your own kids. Something about these cases we work, you really have to put yourself in other people's shoes and other people's situations. I mean, this isn't a job where you can fake it so you make it.
Right.
If somebody's handing us thousands of dollars and they expect something life-changing in return. And, it's challenging. It really is. And I think that's why we both love what we do, is, we get to utilize our brain and all of our skills and everything that we know. So, well, should we go into the second day?
Oh, sure.
All right, let's talk about it.
All right. Well, so to your point of, this guy was out of his mind and just kind of, didn't have good impulses. He was just doing whatever came when it came. And the night that I followed him until about 4 o'clock in the morning. And the first time we went on the highway was about 11:15 in the evening that night. And then at 1 o'clock or 1:15 in the morning, we hit the highway again. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, we hit it a third time. So at 11:15, he was doing about 75 and a 70 on I-65. And then at 1 o'clock in the morning, after he had done a couple of bumps, he was running about 90 miles an hour on the interstate between the two exits. He only went about 3 miles, but I mean, 3 miles at 90 miles an hour is pretty quick. By the time he went to that house to do his second purchase, he was up to about 110 miles an hour. And keeping up with him, I was like, gosh, but there was nobody else out there. But this guy was definitely driving like a maniac. I understood at that point how and why he wrecked his previous car, because you can't do what this guy's doing on the regular and be able to drive like that on the regular. And so, in relation to a third investigator thinking that we were burned, and we were like, no, we at that point already had the experience that this guy kind of drove like a lunatic and really had zero cares when it came to him behind the wheel and what he was doing. So that's why I was like, you're not burned, I promise. Just stay where you're at. Don't move if you feel like you're burned. Just stay there and we'll drive past you. So night number 2, since we kind of knew what his thing to do was now, we know what he liked to do, we knew where he was, most importantly.
We knew he wasn't working a 9 to 5.
Right. And so, yes, this guy was definitely a night runner. And I had the camera on him, and I knew he had come out a little bit earlier than 10 o'clock. He had left about 8:30. So I was like, shoot, let me get over there and see if I can find him. Well, where do you find a guy that's addicted to drugs, alcohol, prostitutes? So I went to the first bar I could find. And sure enough, luck on the money, I pull in and I see this rental car. And I'm like, this is great. So I pull up next to the building, and I just kind of get out and I act like I'm talking on my phone, and I walk up to this guy's car. He's got the window cracked about 3 inches. And I could see all kinds of pamphlets inside the window of different hotels he had been staying at. But then right there on the seat was a clear tube with white powder in it and a little bit spilled on the seat, sitting right on the seat. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? His car keys were on the ground next to the car. So this guy is so messed up. I haven't gone in the building to see him yet, but he's so messed up that he left his window partially rolled down with cocaine on the seat and his keys on the floor in the parking lot next to his car.
Because that's what they want.
Right. This is where everybody keeps their keys when they're high on coke. So I believe I radioed you that one that I found him when we were out there, and so I'm gonna go inside and see what I can see. So I pull my car far away from the restaurant and I go inside and I walk in, and sure enough, he's sitting at the counter. And before I get down to sit down at the bar, he's ordering another Leinenkugel. So I was like,
what?
A Leinenkugel? It's a yellow summer beer. Yeah. So he orders his next Leinenkugel, and I sit down, and I was like, all right. So I always try to keep multiple heads between me and my target. So I sat down and I just had my phone and had my watch and just put my phone down and used my watch to record him drinking beer. I'm only there about 10-15 minutes. He gets up from the bar. He's not walking well. He's very loud. He's very obnoxious. And he's very much heading outside. So let's see where he goes. Strangest thing, his car is on one side of the building. He walks out the front like he's going to his car, and he makes an immediate right, another right, and goes off into the woods with this guy. So, not sure what they were doing back there because, I think I had enough at this point. I'm not going to go in the woods and follow two people that clearly like doing cocaine in the middle of the woods. So I waited for them. He came back to his car, and he went to the house he went to the night before. He got another 8-ball, and he drove back to the hotel. He got out of his car at the hotel, started doing lines right there on the hood of his car. His girlfriend came out and started yelling at him because he was selfish and doing drugs by himself. So he then picked up the baggie with the white substance and says, "But I brought you some, my love." And she's up on the balcony and he's walking towards her. And so I just zoom in on the baggie. I was like, I think we got what we came for.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are the shots, I guess we call them the money shot or the $1 million shot that are so hard to get. And you just have to be in the right place at the right time. And fortunately for you, I mean, you just don't give up. I mean, you're, like I said, you're relentless and you just are going to keep chasing it. And, being in that perfect position to get that, I believe the next day we were just elated to show the client and attorney, like, hey, this is what we got. And I believe they, also told them that, look, between what Diana's been doing, what I've been doing, been following them around, and this guy is a maniac driving, he's really going to hurt somebody. I mean, himself too. I mean, obviously, we don't want something to happen to the guy because, again, there's kids in play here. And if we continue the surveillance and just continue to let this guy do all these things without, some sort of repercussion, then, I mean, he was on a quick path to death. I mean, no doubt about it. So we kind of drew the conclusion, like, look, I know some law enforcement individuals in the area that could likely intercept him at some point or another, at least conduct a knock and talk. I mean, we've laid all the groundwork, we've got all the intel, you have the surveillance, and I put it on the attorneys to say, look, I think it's time. I know it's very early on in the case, but I think it's time to go ahead and notify law enforcement. I mean, we don't want to be watching somebody drinking or doing drugs and then allowing it to happen. I mean, people call us all the time and their goal is, hey, can you get this person arrested? And the truth of the matter is, I start with no, we can't. Right. Because it's kind of hard to promise that. I mean, you're up against a lot of things and you have no idea if if you're going to set out to do some surveillance, if someone's going to actually do something that may or may not be illegal, and then two, you don't know if you're going to be in the right place at the right time, being able to find somebody within law enforcement. I mean, yeah, it's helpful that some of us work with Metro Nashville Police, but if we're not even in Davidson County, we also know that they're very busy. They have probably dozens and dozens of pending calls every single night. So you try to call just the back line or the main line and say, hey, I'm a retired officer, and they laugh. It's just a citizen, but well, I'm a private investigator. This is what's going on. If there's a car in the area, they might be able to come and check it out, but that's not going to be their top priority. So at the end of the day, in this case, we said, look, we probably make some phone calls, and at least let's see if we can create some action and move this forward, because this guy is a danger to himself and others for sure. Now, we had not set out most child custody cases. In our experience, the judge likes to see where we've captured something when the parent is with the kids that is dangerous.
Right.
And we did have the report about him falling asleep, or I'm not sure if he was on coke or meth or what he was at that moment, but I think we were just reading the intel reports and the incident reports and all the things that you requested to get, CAD data, and how many times an ambulance picked this guy up, and all that is factors into these cases, because it shows a pattern. And what we knew very quickly in that week time or less is there's a pattern, and this guy is crazy.
Yeah.
And dangerous.
Yeah.
So we were given the green light, and I made a call. And I won't say to who or what agency or anything, but obviously the police had to get involved. And that's what it's kind of a gray area with private investigators, is because we may see something in which we want to report it. And then there's some things, obviously mandatory reporting, all that. We abide by all that. But, it's not a whole lot different from when I was working with the drug task force, and we see someone exchanging a 2.2 pound brick, and, one guy hands it to the other guy, and then they take off and we follow and we let them go. It's a by walk or surveillance walk operation, and we just let them go, and then we're documenting and corroborating what's being heard on the wire and all of that. It's all in furtherance of a bigger and better case. So like that very first night, if you call the police and you jump out on them, they've used all the coke and they've hit everything, and they, I don't know, threw the gun in the woods or whatever, and then there's not going to be a whole lot of evidence. But a judge could look at that and say, well, this guy was partying one time without his kids, so yeah, we're not going to take custody away from him. And that's not for us to decide too, like the whole who gets who custody. That's just, we are hired to do a job, and we do it well, and you do it well, and you did this one well. So we were given the green light, made the phone call, and then the wheels were set in motion. So do you remember what happened?
So we actually made 2 phone calls. I don't know if you remember, because the drug fight was in one part of the county and he was in another part of the county. So the phone call I made was to the narcotics team in the part of the county I was in, and they were very interested in what I had, and they met me, and they wanted to see the video of the buy, which I had several buys at this point because we watched them for a couple of nights. And then they wanted to know if I had gotten the license plates of all the people that had pulled up. Well, I didn't. Duh. Yeah. So I says, of course. I says, I got the surveillance footage, and in my surveillance footage, I say every car plate and I zoom in on it. I said that I run a TLO and see what we get. And I said, and a lot of these people already have pre-existing drug charges. And they were like, oh, can you give us those too? And I was like, absolutely. So I give them the video footage. I give them the TLOs. And I give them a timeline of 2 days of this guy coming and buying drugs. And he was really thankful. He said, we really appreciate this. We hadn't had any hits on this house, but these people that you gave us, this is motivation enough for us to set up an operation. So based off of that call, 3 weeks later, I got a call from the lead detective on it, and he said, "Hey, I just want to reach out and tell you that we did make a bust on that house, and it was big, and we appreciate you sending that. That's all we can tell you." And I said, "That's absolutely fine." I said, "I think we all went in this situation, so I'm really glad you guys were able to do something." Now for the call that you made, yes, we set up for the police to come out the next morning. And I think you pretty much warned him he drives like a lunatic, so you're going to have your probable cause. And then your guy just did us the world's most greatest favor. He pulled right out of the parking lot for the motel that he was staying in, and it was a divided road, and it had two medians, and one was in the correct direction of traffic. If he had turned right, he could have done a U-turn there. And the other one was in the opposite direction of traffic. And so when he pulled out right into traffic and went to turn into that median. But when he did that, there was a police car coming right at him. And your guys were there waiting to get him. And they hit the blue lights on him. They got him out, and they got him with everything. He had drugs, he had alcohol in the car, he had a gun, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just all came to a head, in that moment. I remember that morning the detective called me and said, "Hey, we got him." It was really easy because he was driving in oncoming traffic and we had to stop him. Usually in a drug cop, you're wanting to probably follow them around for a little while, see who they're dealing with, or going to go re-up at some point. Maybe you want to follow them until they get to their dealer, their plug. You may want to keep following so you see who they're distributing to, because if you're a user, you're probably also a dealer because you're pinching off someone and trying to sell it or share it. Like, obviously he was committing multiple felonies by sharing with his girlfriend and going to get it, obviously distribution and transportation and all of that. But obviously this dude was so high in his mind, he was just doing anything and everything to get away, try to get away with everything. But yeah, I mean, it was fairly simple. They had to hurry up and get him pulled over and got all of that out of his car. I believe they actually went back to the motel room as well. And I can't remember if they executed a search warrant or if they went off consent. Maybe the girlfriend was still there. I seem to remember that she had some warrants somewhere in another county or maybe another state. So I think she might have went bye-bye. But, all in all, we collected all this information. And, like in this one, like I said, it was a win-win. Like, we worked with local law enforcement on several levels, several different units. It was cool because they trusted in us. And sometimes, being a private investigator, we're automatically not trusted by law enforcement, which is so incredibly frustrating. But I understand a little bit. I mean, when I was a police officer, I only met one private investigator in 11 years, and all the guy did was actually, ironically, asset recovery. I met him in night court in front of night court commissioner one time. We were waiting, and it was a long line, and I just got to talking with this guy, and he handed me his card, and he was out, basically looking for vehicles. And, that in that moment kind of got me interested about it. And I always thought, when I retired, which I thought it was going to be 25 or 30 years down the road, not 11 years, I thought that, maybe it was a cool job to do. So, here we are 8 years in, running and growing this company and doing all private investigations and armed security. But, this guy obviously arrested. I believe he bonded out fairly quickly, and there was some setup with him going off to rehab. But, everything that we were able to capture, everything that you did, we put it all into a case report. And I believe, did you even have to testify on this case?
I did not.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's a lot of times what happens when you do such great work and you have all this video evidence. Now, I do remember one of the detectives telling me that he had to testify. I believe he was able to do it over Zoom, which I'm sure they like that a little better. But the county where this was out of was not Davidson County, so I believe they were able to do things a little bit different, and the detective didn't have to travel as far. But got on the Zoom and basically just told him what happened. Look, this guy got arrested, and this is what he had. This is what I found. And obviously, it reflects negatively on the father. I mean, at the end of the day, we were hired to do one job. We had one mission, and that was to conduct surveillance on the father of these children, so that the grandparents could safely and quickly get custody. And we did it. We were able to do it. You did it. We worked together as a team. And this is just when you said, let's talk about this case, let's share it with people, tell them about what we do, tell them about how awesome Diana is at a lot of things. I don't know if there's nothing. Is there anything you're not good at?
Polo.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's enough to stay on the horse. I don't know how they swing the whole hand.
I have a suspicion though, if we had a team polo match, you might show some people fun, yeah. Something going down. It might turn into like a jousting situation where you can knock somebody off a horse. But yeah, I mean, this was just another case where we were hired for something specific. Did such a great job, knocked it out of the park, and this guy went to jail for a little while, went off to rehab. We truly hope that he's got fully rehabilitated, fully got his custody situation back. I know the mother is back in play, grandparents are in play. So at the end of the day, I mean, we don't follow up with these people. Maybe we should, but it would be nice to know that everything turned out okay. And the kids are fine and thriving and going to school and doing everything they want to do. The parents are, being just good parents,
Yeah, I feel like you answered your own question. The kids are okay. That's what the case was about. This guy did a lot of stupid things, and he was reckless, and he was out of control. And knowing that those kids could have been in that car at any point, and he did something stupid again. Just remember, he didn't have a track history of making the best decisions. And for the 2 weeks that we watched him, we could verify that he didn't have a good track history of making good decisions. So those kids are okay. And, I pat Covert Results on the back for this one, because if we didn't gather that intel and find everything that needed to be found, might be a different story today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.